Hello, and welcome back to Shite Talk, an Irish history podcast. My name's Kevin Larney, and it's good to be back. This is the longest break we've taken, I think, but it's good to be back. We're back with season 13, and we've joined Head Stuff. We're now a Head Stuff podcast, which is great. Won't change much for you listeners. If you're listening to this through your podcast app, then it's all working fine. The only thing that will change is that the bonus episodes we're doing, instead of being on Patreon, they'll be over on Head Stuff Plus from now on. And it also means we have to put out more regular episodes. So we'll be putting out new episodes every Monday, and we'll be putting out bonus stuff on Head Stuff Plus on Thursdays, as well as ad-free versions of the regular episodes every Monday. That'll be on Head Stuff Plus as well. But other than that, it's good to be back. Jason's in Asia. He chose this time to go on holidays while we're ramping up for this season. But he's over there for a wedding. He's enjoying himself, and we've pre-recorded all these episodes going out over the next couple of weeks. We've got a 3-part on Michael Collins to start off the season. I think the last episode on the regular feed was the Michael Collins movie review we did maybe 6 months ago with Tony Cantwell. But we're back with the actual story of Michael Collins now. This episode is going to go through most of his early life, and then we'll have one about him rising through the ranks, and then we'll do his untimely death and demise, and then later on in the season we'll have some episodes about Dev as well, just to give the full balance. Dev, 50 years dead this summer. Where does the time go? So we'll be doing all that this season and we've got lots of fun episodes coming up as well in between. And over on the bonus feed, we're starting off this Thursday with a film club. We watched Taffin, one of Pierce Brosnan's first movies. It's a hell of a performance. I don't know, is it a good performance, but it's worth watching. Go watch Taffin and then sign up to Head Stuff Plus and listen to us talk about it, or just enjoy the free version of Michael Collins. Either way, it's good to be back. Exciting to be on a network after 6 years of making this show. But looking forward to getting more episodes ahead. So enjoy this episode. Thanks for listening, and chat to you soon.
Gather around now, you're in for a story. Old tales of lore, all in search of a glory. The history and mystery of lads, lasses and all. Discoveries and voyages, the rise and the fall. Follow me now as we go back in time. Retrace the steps of Irish lineage to find Joseph from Carlisle and Kevin from Dawn. Guide you through the ways of Shite.
Michael Collins.
Big Mick.
The big fella.
Yes.
5'10".
5'10", if even. At an inch. But this is the one we've been working on for 6 years. Michael Collins. Growing up, I thought, one of the most uncontested, sort of just generally loved across the board, I would have thought.
Yeah.
In recent times, it turns out people have decided he was a traitor. It's gone back around. It's cyclical.
Yeah.
100 years ago, people thought that, and then everyone sort of, spoilers, he gets assassinated. And we all kind of say, I was a good man. And now, in recent times, people are like, actually, we hate him again.
Well, did we just grow up in maybe parts of the country where he was seen as always a hero? It's hard to know.
Well, we talked about this in the movie episode, but the movie definitely colours men of our generation's opinions about him.
Yeah.
But it is,
we still love Liam Neeson.
Yes. But it is pretty... I think you pointed out it's very biased. If you're going to make a documentary about a biopic about a fella, and it's named after one of the people, a biopic about a conflict is named after one of the people in the conflict, then the other person is played by the Snake Man from. If you get Hans Gruber, you look around and say, who's the most hated villain of the 1980s? Get him in for a bit of balance. Have him play. What's his next role? Oh, Snape. Amazing. That's the fella we want. It's a good movie, but yeah, it definitely is pro.
He did it very well, though.
He did it very well.
To him, it's not Alan Rickman's fault.
No, God, no. He did. I mean, he only had.
Or I should say, it's not Dev's fault that Alan Rickman was so good at playing a snake.
Yeah, and it's not Alan Rickman's fault that Dev was a snake. It's no one's fault really. But now in the fullness of time,
if anyone's, it was Michael Collins' fault.
Yeah, for
being so good that they've had to go to that level of snake.
Yeah, to get beneath him.
Snakeosity.
But a lot of this, the information for this came from your favorite documentary, Ken Griffith's.
The Hang Up Your Brightest Colours.
Yes.
My God, what was that? Is it that's in the 70s?
Yeah.
Late 60s. He gets commissioned. He's a Welsh actor.
Yes.
An auteur, if you would, because he also does documentaries where he goes and researches everything himself, directly to camera, talks about... He writes a script and he just talks it out over the space of the documentary where he's constantly on camera.
Yes.
Yeah, with no recreations.
He's just kind of walking around the areas where stuff happened.
Exactly, but that's like to not even have no recreations, not really photos. It's really just him going to different areas.
Yeah, walking through fields towards camera.
Yeah, sitting down on the stoop of a steps on a very busy street in Dublin. Lie down in the middle of O'Connell Street. Sure, just it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
He explains the history of Michael Collins and what the British done wrong.
Yeah.
But the only problem was it was commissioned by what is basically now like a subsidiary of the BBC or ITV.
Yeah.
And when he was told like carte blanche, go out and make whatever you want. He's making all these. He's made a good couple of documentaries at this stage.
Yeah.
And then so one of his buddies, one of the commissioners, says, "Go off and make your little thing. That'll give you 20 grand for the year. You'll be a well treated artist." And he came back and handed in a fully edited version of how the British fucked Ireland. And how deadly Michael Collins was.
Yeah.
And how much of a shame it is that he's been written out of history. And I guess that's the thing is that because we would have seen, the film came out in the 90s.
Sure, yes.
That people would have said that Dev did a lot to write him out over the years. Yeah.
Well, one bit we'll talk about, I only found out this morning, Dev might have, he's born, that'll be the first line of the script, born 16th of October, 1890. Not according to his tombstone, which says he was born on the 12th of October. And apparently, Dev did that. He signed off on...
Getting his date wrong.
Yeah, he signed off on like what is... Because his tombstone is only erected in Glasnevin in like the 30s, when Dev is in charge. And they're like, we'll just run this by you, Dev. And he says, just one last little... Just change the day.
Is there something
Make
else
him a Virgo.
Happened? Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like...
I don't know what just maybe, just out of badness, he's like... Fuck him, just change that. So everywhere it's written that he's born 16th October, apart from his tombstone.
Because he would have been was that a Scorpio? I only guess
I don't know.
It's around my birthday, so it's
yes,
like
yeah.
But is a Scorpio too cool, and he's got to
it's like make him a virgin.
Yeah.
Let's knock him back, make him Virgo. I don't know.
And he's only 5'10".
Yeah.
Start that now.
Yeah, knock that down.
And I'm 6'4".
Yeah, the long fella. Put my grave beside his. Just get it preempted. Make it bigger and longer.
Get the lot behind as well.
Yeah, overshadow it. So a lot of people, because Dev is alive for about 1,000 years after Collins, and he gets to sort of
like St. Patrick or vampires.
Very much like both of those things. But so a lot. We got Griffith's documentary. So what was they never air that though. So he produced it, gives it to them, and they say,
he gives it to them.
It's not the time.
Yeah, they knock it back. I think it's around it might be 1973. It is. It's the year of the Old Bailey bombing.
Okay.
That's why, it's very funny. That
it is very funny.
In the year that there's been a giant bombing campaign across England, that he's handed in this to be like, hey, just on top of all that. And after the 9 o'clock news.
Coming up next.
Yeah. Why we deserve it.
It didn't come out of nowhere, lads. Let's look at the history books.
They didn't take it off a stone.
Yeah.
So they put it in the back and they say nope, it never aired. And then he sues over. It's probably a good. I think he gets it in the late 80s or early 90s. It gets released. Then he gets access to the tapes, but he also gets access to a couple of million quid. Because it's illegally been censored. Obviously his legal fees paid or whatever. He goes to a place near Islington up in North London.
Yeah.
An estate mainly used for British generals and admirals from the British Army, and he buys a house in there and he renames it Michael Collins House.
Yep.
And he makes it a museum to Michael Collins.
It's not unlike 9/11. During the events of 9/11, they're like a tragedy in New York. Coming up after the break, we've got a little documentary by Spike Lee about how the CIA funded the Mujahideen. But
But the Michael Collins house thing is fantastic.
the music, the
Yeah,
Collins
to get the
Museum.
money and then to go and to do that.
Yeah.
But then, so everyone, we should love him. He's fantastic, right? That's
Yes.
great. All good so far.
Oh yeah,
And
well,
then
yeah.
he gets buried, and he gets buried with, he must have some part of a Wales flag, I don't know, but he has an Irish flag.
Yes.
Woo, class,
Nice.
everywhere, that's great. And then the rest of the internet page loads up,
Yeah.
and you see it's the flag of Israel.
Ooh. He didn't stick the landing.
It really went, it actually didn't even,
When-
just went reverse all the way back up
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the podium.
Keep him guessing. You know, you don't want to fit into you don't want to pigeonhole yourself politically.
How did he see that?
I don't know. A lot of people make strange mashups of flags. You see a lot of people marching with the Israeli flag
But
and swastikas.
In Ireland at the time, when he would have seen the support that we had for Palestine then.
Well, yeah, he was a disruptor.
Yeah, do you know what?
Yeah, he's put that out there.
If he didn't do it, we wouldn't be talking about it.
No, we'd just be talking about all the good work he did about Michael Collins. But anyway, yeah, so a lot of this comes from him and that documentary, and then also Tim Pat Coogan. He wrote a biography about Collins, and about 1,000 internet pages of people talking about Collins.
Yeah.
So, Collins, born 16th of October, 1890. Woodfield, Sam's Cross, West
2
Cork.
centuries ago, Kevin. That's
Double
2
the
centuries.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. Well, and then add on his dad. You're going back about 5 centuries. So he was the youngest of 8 kids, third son, and he's born to Michael John Collins, who was 75 at the time of his birth, which is an odd one. So our Michael Collins is obviously named after his dad, but he's the last of the kids. But he's obviously the favorite one who gets the name.
Or maybe the first 2 were named after each granda.
Although because to be honest, there's so many Michael. Because I was reading websites that try and trace the genealogy to try and figure out. Because there's sort of stories about Michael Collins Senior being involved in the IRB and marching and stuff, and they're like, well, there was a Michael Collins marching at that time, but it could have been his nephew, his cousin, this other nephew,
The astronaut.
There's the astronaut. Lads need to be picking different names.
You say that, and then as soon as people pick awkward names, we give out.
Not awkward names, just don't name everyone you know in your family the same name. Because I'm pretty sure he's Michael John Collins, and then our Michael Collins is Michael Sean Collins, which is the same name.
2 separate names.
2 separate names, but basically it's too confusing for the tracing of the genealogy. But anyway, he's a 75-year-old tenant farmer when he's born. So Collins Sr. would have been born in 1815, which means he lived through the famine, the 67 revolution,
2 famines.
47 revolution, 2 famines. He lived through it all. And by God, does he let the family know about it? This was a story. Well, everyone kind of speaks very highly of him. Again, a lot of what people know about him is guesswork and then accounts from his children who live in adulthood. They all write biographies or whatever. But they say he's a skilled carpenter, amateur mathematician. He speaks bits of Latin, Greek, French, Irish, all thanks to good hedge school education.
What's an amateur mathematician?
He's not a pro. He's doing it for fun.
I know, but what does
He can look at a field and he can tell you how many acres is in
I'll
it.
rephrase the question.
Yeah.
What's a mathematician?
What's a mathematician?
What does that? What do they when they clock in the morning?
Yeah. I mean, we all...
Is he just looking at 7 plus 8? He's like, oh, I'd say that's what the Wordle was back then.
Yeah. So it's Goodwill Hunting. He's trying to solve 7 and 8 on him. Hey, get away from there, Collins. 12. My God, that's almost correct. I don't know. I mean, a lot of this stuff, obviously, like he dies, as usually, he dies when Collins is like 6.5. A lot of it is through the lens of a revolutionary, and everyone's like, "Jeez, he was the best. He was the best man. He was a carpenter. He was a mathematician. He knew Latin. Did he speak Greek? I don't know. Let's say yes.
Yeah.
He's a 75-year-old man. He's been around a lot. I'm sure.
It's in, like Brian Friel's translations. There's loads of like plays and different books over the years.
He's
where, Irish people.
He's
back
the
in
Brian
day,
Friel translation, old man.
Yeah.
Hedge. That's who
was
he
doing
is.
that.
Yeah.
Did that character ever exist?
What are you saying?
I'm
What are
saying
you
that
saying?
it's
Are you shaking the foundation of this entire country? Are you saying that during a period where there was nothing to eat and people were starving and dying in the fields, that this man wasn't having an all-rounded education, a
There wasn't
global
some lad
education?
sat down reading about Plato and then talking Latin
Yeah.
And like, that wasn't...
I don't know. Plato, he's Irish.
He was pulling the stomach off himself.
No, don't you say that about Michael Collins Sr. Well, there's no reason to doubt that he was this.
There's so many reasons to doubt that.
No.
He has 8 children.
Yes.
Where is he finding the time?
Well, I did read this that he marries.
He was a very neglectful father, so he had loads of time on his hands.
Well, actually, I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, because his daughters is the classic. His daughters are quotes about him being like, quite distant and a scary father figure. Apart from, so Michael's the youngest, and they were like, oh, he doted after Michael, which at that point he would have been like 75, 76.
So he softened up after the first 7 kids.
The first 7. By the time he knew the 6th was his last, and he was like, I better switch gear here. At that point, he's essentially, we talked about this in several episodes, but he goes into grandfather mode at that point.
Yeah.
He's like, I'd be nice to this one. But also, I had read that the first kid, so he marries Mary Ann O'Brien in February of 1876. He was about 60, 61, and she was about 23, one of the neighbour women.
This gold-digging minx.
She was
taking advantage of this poor man.
He's speaking Latin, he's speaking Greek, he's French.
61-year-old bachelor.
He's charming her. Well, I had read one account.
He's 61, no kids.
Yeah.
And he gets 8 knocked off.
No, yeah, in record time. But, well, maybe not 8. I had read that by the maths of it, she might have been pregnant with the first one before they got married. Born after they got married, but...
And the amateur mathematician couldn't put that together.
He did put it together. And you know what else he put together? A home for a woman who would have been thrown asunder in a different time, a rough time. He's a kind man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're pregnant.
Yeah.
You're being kicked out of home. I'm 61. I'll never took a wife.
Yeah. You can come in, give me 7 more kids. One of them, be a great man. Oh, they'll all be great men. And women, probably. But I don't know. So, whatever. Someone had done the maths on it, and they reckon maybe that was a way to help out a woman in need.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, they have 8 kids. From a much later description that Collins gets a hold of his family. I don't know was it at the time or just in general, but when they're talking about the Collinses of West Cork, he said they're a family of brainy people who are disloyal and of advanced Sinn Féin sympathies. They are of the farming class. So it's not a bad description.
I want to know, does every family have a description like that of the time?
Yeah, probably.
I want to go back and find what
the Brennans of Carlow. They're of the unbrained class. Yeah. They're loyal to a fault. Just the Brennan family, harmless. Yeah. That's the worst they could say about you. Well, I suppose if they're saying they're of advanced Sinn Féin sympathies, then obviously that's written later. But we can assume that's what they thought about them at the time. So Colin Sr. dies in July of 1897. Michael's about 6.5. On his deathbed, his father, who had also read 7th son of a 7th son.
He was the 7th.
Yep. Which, as we all know, means he's basically a wizard.
So the 7th son of a child who was the 7th son.
Yeah, did you ever hear that?
No.
Oh, that's
it does sound. I've heard 7th son, but I didn't know what.
I think it
sounds stupid.
Whoa, wait! It's one of those weird hangovers from the pagan times. Although I think it's a thing in Islam as well. Like if you have 7 sons and then you're the 7th son of a 7th son, you are said to have some sort of mystical powers.
Okay.
You'd still see it about these days. You never hear your mother talking about a local 7th son of a 7th son, and they'd be good for curing warts or internal bleeding, or they'd have the vision or something.
No, we had wishing wells.
Yeah, wishing wells. Yeah, that's something completely different. But yeah, it's that old kind of mysticism that somehow made it true.
Who was having 7 sons?
Everybody. What are you talking about?
The likelihood of one daughter, a couple of daughters being in there.
Oh no, yeah, but you have.
You'd have to have...
No, but you can have 15 kids, as long as you have 7 sons.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
but you're adding more ridiculous. People weren't having 15 kids.
100% they were.
No, they were not.
What are you talking about?
No,
my uncle is one of like 15. That's so common.
My dad's one of like 10, but 15 sounds excessive.
Okay, but even 10, there's a fairly good chance if everyone's having 10 to 12 kids that you'll get a lot of people that have 7 sons in there.
7 sons? That's
about half. Yeah. That's like not crazy. And then you just need one of those kids to have another 7 sons.
Okay, I will say this.
It's not extremely...
On my dad's side, of the 10, 8 of them are...
So, okay.
Right, okay.
So that means there's a seventh son in that family.
So you're saying Tony's magic?
No, if he has 7 sons,
He
then
doesn't.
well, there you go. Then it ends. Unless his dad was a 7th son. You know what I mean? You need 2 generations of it. I thought you'd know about this.
Why you no? It is interesting. But
Yeah, it's interesting because it still crops up these days.
because I don't know about it and I haven't heard. It sounds thick.
It's insane. It doesn't
you can't get into Star Wars unless you see it as a child.
Yeah.
If I had heard this when I was younger, that sounds pretty cool. That's stupid.
Oh no, it's just because it's a mildly rare thing, and it has a nice little. Yeah, it's rare enough. But yeah, I don't know. They'd be said to have even today. People would be sent to see them to source certain
Like
things.
shingles.
Yeah, there'd be
Okay.
they'd all have different. We could do a whole episode about it because it's basically all like just it's I'm not going to say it's complete bollocks.
Let's do this episode.
Yes, this episode. Well, so he was said to be a 7th son of a 7th son, which means, as we all know now, that he is some sort of mystical. They say that he had the sight, and this is evidence now. He says on his deathbed that his daughter Helena would become a nun, which she did,
Okay.
and that is definitely a vision. And not just her statistically very likely to become a nun anyway, or also just listening to her father's wishes on his deathbed.
Yeah.
Either
She will become a nurse who must flee the country to find work.
she'll go to a foreign land to work in the health service.
Yeah.
How did he know?
Mm.
How did he know? One of them will inherit the land, and the other will be forever bitter that he didn't inherit the land. But also, he turns to after his prediction about the nun, he turns to the rest of the family and says, look after that boy, Michael. One day he'll be a great man. He'll do great work for Ireland. I've also read that he said, mind that child, he'll be a great man yet and do great things for Ireland. I shall not see Ireland free, but in my children's time it will come.
Yeah.
Please God.
I remember hearing that one.
Yeah.
Michael Flatley's grandmother said that you're going to grow up to be a king and live in a castle.
Yeah.
And then he did.
And he did.
That was so specific that he's going to grow up to do great things for Ireland.
Yeah. Now that I think of
That's
it,
too.
on my grandmother's deathbed, she did turn to me and say, you'll grow up to have a Midland Irish history podcast. And we're on the way.
One of these days.
We're on the way up. So, you got to take all that with a massive pinch of salt. But yeah, he has a strong relationship with his dad, though. It says, Collins himself says it later, all my early life I lived in childish wonder of my father. Although I was a lad of 7 when he died, he had already inspired me with implicit faith in his goodness, his strength, his infallibility. I remember, as if it was yesterday, an instance of my fate. It proved that I could not conceive anything of his doing that was not altogether right. So he's 7 and his dad's filled him full of Fenian stories.
Yes. Well, that and his school teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, the last one before his school teacher, his sister said of the dad, by the time Michael could walk, he accompanied my father, who, in his quiet way, told him how to become a man. In later years, Michael told me that he had no recollection of our father's appearance, but that he remembered many things he had told him about the bad times, and how the land ought to belong to the people. So, he does seem to be filling his 5 to 6 year old future ruler of this nation with ideals of stories of the bad times and stories of being decent to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Doing the James McLean history lesson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he putting on the ballot lab and bringing young Michael, come here now. But yeah, you're right. He also Collins
Put down
also
the
credits
books, Michael. It's time for the real learning.
Yeah. But he also credits, or at least in all the sort of different things written, 2 other people are credited with Collins' early education. James Santry, the blacksmith, and the primary school headmaster, Dennis Lyons. They instilled the pride of Ireland in him.
Mm-hmm.
So Lyons was an IRB member, and Santry, I think Santry had claimed to make weapons himself, but then the timelines didn't add up. Because his family maybe did.
They made weapons for their
Yeah. So he said, 1798 rebellion, 1848, 1867. He was like, I did it all. What are you, 120 years old? He might be from a line of blacksmiths.
Yes.
He said he made the pikes themselves that they threw that ran William of Orange out of this nation. Who knows? But he definitely had a lot of stories. But I don't know why I find this so funny, but Dennis Lyons, he was sort of openly a member of the IRB. He invited O'Donovan Rossa to speak at Collins' future school in 1894. So it was before Collins was in the school, but there's something very funny about it. I don't know, I can just really picture my primary school teacher, if there was an equivalent of a Donna Rossa around, just be like completely starstruck and just be like, he's a great man. Shut the fuck, listen here. This is bad now. And like, obviously the kids have no fucking idea. They're all 5-6-year-olds. And he's getting O'Donovan and Rossa in to talk about freedom and the pride and what the bastards did to us. Just good stuff. So they're of good Fenian stock, and they're filling Collins' head as such. There's some quote that I think comes from Griffith's documentary that I can't find anywhere else, but Lyons said of Michael Collins at age 10, I think it comes from his school report, does it?
Yeah.
Exceptionally intelligent in observation and at figures, good, able and willing to adjust himself to all circumstances, displays more than a normal interest in things pertaining to the welfare of this country.
Yeah. Which is, I think he's even 10 at that stage.
Yeah.
That's class.
How
How adorable would he have been?
a Fenian Collins at 10, 9, 10, which, to be fair, it seems like, like Lyons, when he's marking off through scorecard, is like arithmetic, writing, Fenianism. Like those are the only metrics that a child should be measured on.
You see a 9-year-old Collins with a half pint in his hand, sitting in his school uniform. Like, a man couldn't own a horse.
There was a time in this country where a man wasn't even allowed to commit a crime. And his pint is, of course, Murphy's. But his mam then, who I've criminally underwritten in this opening bit, she was around as well.
Yeah,
very nice woman by all accounts. There are a lot of accounts of like the relationship being I've read it's described as for being somewhere between robust, maybe even happy. So I don't know.
That's good.
Yeah, it was certainly amicable.
Yeah, I've never heard. I have realized now I don't know. In my research, I didn't come across anything.
No, there's a lot of focus on the dad and they don't know how actively involved in Fenianism. He lived through a lot anyway, and he had a lot of stories to tell.
He told Michael a lot about it. Then, as I suppose, like for any child, at that age, that's when you're like, your dad's your hero.
Yeah.
And then he dies.
Yes.
And he's just been telling you about Fenian stuff. And then you go to school and the next lad is like, he's your school teacher.
Yeah.
He's like the lad you see, the older person you see most of the time.
He's the father figure then, yeah.
And he's in the raft.
Yeah. Which also, actually, I've realised is maybe something Collins himself learned from. Get the good in, get the Fenian message out, and then die before die before anyone could before you could do any wrong. Maybe something Collins took into account himself. But his mum, Mary Ann Collins, nee O'Brien, she was the matriarch of the household. She kept the farm running after the old fella died. I don't know, have you got anything written there about his mum? Because I'm realising there's literally just one line about her.
No, but that she would have sent him to Clonakilty for school.
Yeah. Well, sure, what more needs to be said about her? She raised 8 children, the hardest job of all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A single mother for a lot of it.
Yeah.
A
farmer.
Yes, she rolled up her sleeves and did farming work when the well, to be honest, she'd probably done a lot of it anyway because he was 70.
Yeah, he was
70 odd.
And also speaking Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah, now maybe she could speak Greek as well.
Yeah, well, actually, in all of the listing of stuff he did, it doesn't mention he's a farmer. Well, he is a farmer, but never always great at Greek and Latin, and he was a mathematician and a carpenter. It doesn't really was he any use at farming, which seemed to be it was his main job. He was a tenant farmer. I think they had landlords, so they were farming.
The farmer he took off there the last 20 years of his life.
Yeah. When he was inside smoking a pipe and just talking to the young fella about Fenianism. So. Well, I suppose his older siblings as well. They're probably working the farm. But anyway, the mother, she gets young Collins. He goes to Lissavard Primary School with Dennis Lyons, I guess, and then goes to Clonakilty for his secondary education.
Yeah, with his sister down there.
Yes, so he's staying with the sister down there.
And comes back at the weekends to work the farm.
Like a good Catholic. Yes. He has a bit of a job, I think, at this point. His sister's husband opens a newspaper in Clonakilty, the West Cork People.
Yes.
For West Cork, by West Cork. And he does something there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's writing or doing a bit of journalism, but that's all secondary to his passion at the time. Learning how to pass the post office exam.
Yes.
That was the way out for a young man at the time.
Which was, so was there, You could go to college here. You could go to...
Yeah, well...
But I guess the more obvious thing would have been to... Sure, the aim was to get a job afterwards anyway, so do the post office exam.
Yeah.
Get over to England. Get paid while you're learning how to do stuff.
Well, he does, because he goes to King's College in London. Well, in
That's
Trinity...
That's only for a little while to
That's
become
only
a
for a
lawyer,
little while.
and he drops out
He
because
does.
he's no good.
He's no good. Well, in 1905, so at this time, they started letting women into Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
But
Some say they never recovered.
Some said that was the undoing of the place. But
And only 20 years later, Catholics.
yeah, that because wouldn't
That's
be
really the
Protestant women.
ruination of the place then.
Yeah, but you should probably go to UCC
Yeah,
if it existed at the time.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah, but anyway, he didn't go down the college route. He wanted a job. He wanted a job in the post office.
But your learning's done by 15 or 16 anyway. He's already working in
Yeah.
a newspaper. He's
his mystical dad on his deathbed had said something about a general post office, something or another, and he was like, "Oh, well, obviously he wants me to work in a post office. You'd be a big man at the GPO." So I thought, well, I better get the post office exam. So yeah, he leaves school at 15 in 1905 and heads over to London in 1906 with his new post office certificate. Yeah, London, Chapter 2.
What's his job when he goes to London, Kevin?
When he gets to London, he's a clerk.
He's not. He's a boy clerk.
He's a boy clerk. That's right.
Yeah.
He's a junior boy clerk. But he's immersing himself. So what age is he?
He's about 15 now.
15,
isn't he?
16, yeah. And he's like any teenager, he's immersing himself in the London scene.
Yeah.
He
Even behind his Irish ways, trying to see what England has to offer him.
Yes.
He joins the GAA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like any Irishman, yeah, he goes over and just surrounds himself with other Irishmen and spends the time talking about Ireland. But yeah, he keeps ordering pints of Guinness in the pub and going, they fucked that one.
There's nothing like travel.
There's nothing like travel. There's nothing like traveling to a big city and making a very insular group of other Irish immigrants. He joins the GAA, he joins the Gaelic League. He not just as a player, but as an organizer. Apparently, he's getting other lads into it. He's staying with his sister at the time, who I guess has also moved over to London.
And it's where he meets Sam Maguire, who introduces him to the IRA. That Sam Maguire,
yes,
of Gaelic football fame,
of the Sam Maguire.
Yeah, Michael Collins meets him in London,
yes,
playing GAA, and he introduces him into the IRA.
Yeah, which
that is fantastic.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people arguing at the time that these GAA groups, these Gaelic Athletic Association groups, it's all just smoke and mirrors, cover to radicalize young men and get them into the IRB and get them into these paramilitary organizations. And everyone's saying, not at all. Not at all. Maybe a little bit. Maybe just exactly a smidge. Maybe just exactly that. I think he played for...
And in many ways, the GAA has lost its way over
That's true.
the last century.
Yeah. I think he was a hurling man. Collins
was,
yeah. I think he played for one of the London teams, but he's getting into the mix. Well, he says I guess there would have been other Irish men who were over there who would have went more. I suppose at the time there's other Irish lads who were getting into trouble. They are also full of Fenian ideas, but they were.
Yeah, well, Michael hadn't been introduced to that because he wasn't.
Well, he had his sister looking out for him. I think is the But he's not getting
into
sort of
his history of like up until 15, 16, growing up in Dublin or in Cork.
Yeah, that
he wouldn't have. Didn't anyway. From what I saw, that he wouldn't have had much of experience of that. Whereas, say like Brendan Behan is shooting at lads when he's like 10.
Yeah, that's true. He's got more of the country Fenianism in him.
Yeah.
As opposed to
and
the
then he gets
young dub.
He gets to the big city and the sisters kind of look after him. He's playing hurling. He's still studying and he's getting all his accountancy bits done as well.
But there's a great quote from him from that. I think it's from the Griffith documentary again. But
I don't want to study. All the lads are off throwing Molotov cocktails at 10 Downing Street.
Yeah.
Well, you can put that as your answer in the test tomorrow then, Michael.
Just get your intercert. There'll be plenty of time for burning England down afterwards. At least you'll have a good education to fall back on, Michael. But there's a great quote there he's saying in his early days in London. 10 of us were going the Shepherd's Bush Road, but out of a lane came a chap with a donkey. Just the sort of donkey and just the sort of cart they have at home. We all cheered him. No one who's been in exile will understand me, but I stand for that. Which is beautiful, I think. Just
It's all a donkey.
Yeah. And a bunch of Irish lads just seeing something from back home and going, yeah, whoop, 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 whoop. It's the same today as it was. I've never felt closer to Michael. Just being away from home and seeing something vaguely Irish and going, bringing a tear to your eye.
That's for, it's like I was in Porto last year, and myself and Dan, silent producer Dan, were walking down the street, and I could hear U2 playing. Yeah. And we'd already been drinking a good bit. We were like, oh, class, that's going to be like an Irish bar. It was Blair, and we walked all the way down in the sun. It was beautiful. We keep looking around for this bar. I was like, surely we'll see the shamrock or a flag. It'll be everywhere. And I realised it was just coming from a cafe.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an Irish cafe. It's just one of the biggest bands in the world.
that other people know.
That other people know. Just one of their songs that we're like, right, it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't own everything.
Well, we do own you two, though.
We just don't claim them. We do own them.
If you want to support this podcast and get a full ad-free episode, sign up to Headstuff Plus.
And so how long does he spend over in London then? It's the guts of...
He's only there for, from 1909 till 1916.
Yeah.
So this is a fair chunk of his early life.
Yeah, sure. It's all from him, like from 15 to about 25.
Yeah.
Or 16 to early 20s.
Yeah.
He
early
to mid-20s.
Yeah, it's a time that... well, I mean, obviously, it was a lot of the focus is on his time when he's a military man. You don't really hear too much about his time in London, but it sets him up as he meets all the, he makes a lot of connections.
He had a great time.
Yeah, he had
a man who's known for loving pints. Charming.
Yeah.
Handsome enough. Women loved him. Probably lost his virginity to an English woman. Let's just say it now.
I'd say probably an Irish woman because he.
Yeah, I suppose he's surrounded.
Seems to spend his whole time over there, just surrounded by Irish people, talking about Ireland and getting pretty involved in the female.
London's a great place.
It's a great place to go and meet all the other people who had to leave Ireland, and spend all the time complaining about.
You'd meet lads from all over the world's different creeds and codes. There'd be Fermanagh. There'd be Galway. There'd be a little place called Antrim.
Oh God, international men. Cork and West Cork.
The ways they'd be dressing, the food they'd be eating, lads.
I had a man swear up and down that a farrel belongs in a fry. Oh, there's queer sorts over in that London town. But as he spends about 6 years there, he's getting involved in the GA organisation. He meets Sam. He gets brought into the IRB. But he's working initially as a boy clerk in the post office savings bank at Blythe House. He goes to become a stockbroker at Home & Co. He's going to school in King's College, but he doesn't finish it. But he's getting an education. He's getting involved with... It's a sort of admin...
King's College that's the lawyer one.
Yeah, it's a law college there.
So he does like 1 year there, but then doesn't continue.
But he's...
an Irishman.
Yeah.
How could the ones who break the law...
he's also but he's an admin fella. He's I suppose there's an awful lot spoken about Michael Collins, the gun runner and the military man, but not so much about the sort of admin fella,
pencil pusher.
The pencil pusher. He sets up. We'll talk about that at the end, but he sets up the tax system of the country. His big skill is in like organization and his counterintelligence and stuff like that. So he's kind of learning all those bits. He's also he starts reading Conan Doyle, who. I suppose he would have been alive at the time. It's kind of written into some of these things as like, and he was a big fan of Sherlock Holmes, but he would have been a very popular author. He would have also been living in London.
It was like reading like a Tom Clancy or something.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It was because when the Irish Crown Jewels, the Jewels is the most illustrious order of St. Patrick,
1907.
So Sir Arthur Conan Doyle offered to come over to Dublin to try and solve the mystery. Yeah. Of where they went missing, and he was told you do know you're just an author,
you're just some guy,
you create the reason why you're able to figure out the mysteries in your books is you've wrote the mystery.
But there's a lot of stuff he's a fan of Conan Doyle, which shows his methodical intelligence and his love of spycraft, or maybe he's just reading like the big summer blockbuster of the day.
But
also maybe it's all true.
It could all be true because we'll get to it later. But his secret network of spies, of like using little kids.
Yes,
it's Michael Collins first, and then drug dealers.
Yes,
that it was weird how for this people go, oh, so smart and pretty cute is having kids run around give messages. They never see it. They're like, yeah, it is just that's what just drug dealers just took that.
That is true.
And right, yeah.
But
Michael Collins and Top Boy.
Yeah, but he's in the IRB at this time, and it doesn't take long for them to notice his mathematical acumen, and he gets sort of pulled aside by it becomes the financial advisor basically to Count Plunkett, Joseph Plunkett's father.
Yes.
So Joseph Plunkett's kind of regarded as one of, I suppose, if you read any of the 1916 revolutionaries, whoever's writing the book would be like, and he was actually the real one who organized the whole thing. But I have read that Joseph Plunkett was actually the real one who organized the whole thing. I don't know. I think apparently he wrote a lot of the early plan for it, and that was followed. But anyway, Collins was sort of pulled aside. He's noticed anyway, and he's kind of assigned to look after Count Plunkett's finances. He's got a good head for administration, and he's getting a lot of contacts for his future
11
network.
And his shoes are still on.
Yes. Then it all happens. 1914, World War the First breaks out. He's conflicted about what to do. Men are getting conscripted in, home rule is put on the shelf. It's a very tumultuous time. In January of 1915, he writes, "This unhappy position in which I find myself, not wanting to be part of an army in which in the past and now has pledged itself to the oppression of Ireland, yet not wanting at the same to seek the murky honour of being a conscientious objector. America would seem to be the best solution." So he doesn't want to join the army, he doesn't want to run away. He figures, I suppose running away is going to America is running away. Yeah. He doesn't want to stay in England and be a conscientious objector.
Yeah.
Get called a coward. So he figures the best option is to run away. But sometime after that, he comes across a better option.
Bursting into the London Irish Centre into a meeting and calling everyone cowards and saying we should all go back to Ireland and fight.
Go back to Ireland and fight. So that's, it's time for an independent Ireland.
It was a quick switch.
Yeah.
Just think of that. All those J1 students every summer.
Yeah.
The lads constantly going over for Erasmus or getting their jobs after college and moving and going to America. And what they could be doing is staying here and fighting the British.
Yes. So he loves it. He gets more involved in the RB. He goes the other way and decides to go back.
What is a count?
Yeah.
And why would a man called Count Plunkett need someone in charge of his finances?
I had actually, even more confusing, I'd read that he's a papal count. So I don't know.
Oh.
Something to do with some Catholic thing.
Catholic vampire?
So also during this time, he's working for the Guarantee Trust Co., which becomes part of JP Morgan in the 50s. And he's working, when he lands back in Dublin afterwards, he works on Dawson Street. He's an accountant with Craig Gardner and Co.
Yeah, so you're saying he's a finance bro.
He's no money man. I'm saying that he had the option to, JP Morgan would have, if he had just waited 50 years and stayed away from the revolutionary stuff, he would have been a rich man.
Could have got them from the inside.
He could have got them from the inside, taken them down from the inside, but instead he tried to take them down from the outside, which is much more difficult. And he goes back to Ireland, January 15th, 1916. So a year after he writes his letter about what to be done. He's the financial advisor for Count Plunkett now over in Ireland. And on Easter Monday, April 24th, he takes part in the Easter Rising.
Yes.
As Joseph Plunkett's aide de camp.
Yeah.
So,
let's just call it aide.
Yeah, it is his aide because he's...
But what does the camp mean? Like in the camp?
Confidential assistant. Yeah, I don't know. He's his assistant in the field because...
But what does that mean? Does that mean he's running around getting letters, or is he...
Yeah, because Plunkett, again,
is Plunkett there with a turret gun at the top of, like, what's going on?
Plunkett's not there with a turret gun at all. He's pretty sick.
Exactly. So it would feel like that he shouldn't be there at all. And
what are you, to fucking sideline a man just because he has tuberculosis?
Yes.
That's ableist. He's the orchestrator of this rise, and he deserves to be out there...
coughing on the British.
Yeah. Well, in general, we're not going to cover the 1916 Rising too much in this. There's many a podcast that do it better and more.
And we'll probably do it eventually anyway.
We do it eventually, but it's a 6-day, short-lived rebellion against the British in the middle of World War One. A bunch of communists, proto-communists, socialists, artists, painters, thinkers, and dreamers all get together barely a day of military experience between them all, and they come up with an idea to start a revolution. I think they're all leading up to 1914. They're all saber rattling. They're all threatening to take over the country if home rule doesn't come true. And then World War One starts, and the majority of the Irish volunteers go with John Redmond to fight in World War One.
Yeah,
they say it'll make everyone better friends. There'll be no chance for civil war at all after World War One, which will be over in a couple of months anyway. While they're gone, the lads who stay behind, they all kind of find each other, start planning this rebellion. They are waiting on guns. If you're starting a rebellion against the British, you're going to need weapons. Roger Casement and other lads were over in Germany trying to secure the weapons. They don't, but they have some shit guns from, 1912. The Germans sell them a load of shit guns. So they've those old Mausers from like the 1800s, but they want new fancy guns so they can fight against the British. They're meant to come over in the submarine. That gets lifted when it lands in Kerry, so there's no guns. So they want to try and stop the revolution. They try and back out. Because it's like there's ads in the paper for like, we're going to go down and do a peaceful rally.
That was always my thing when people said there's a multitude of reasons that way it wasn't going to go ahead. Just like, right, not enough guns.
Yes.
Just like, not a whole lot of military experience.
Yeah.
Most of the people who were meant to show up didn't, because it was put into the paper to tell them not to come up.
Yeah.
And like the idea of it being we've got an element of surprise. That's our top trump. We're going to use that, and they won't expect to come and try. It was in the paper that there was going to be like 100,000.
Yeah. Because for Easter.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just going to do a little procession, wink, and then they try and like half. It's the sort of half jump start to try and subtly tell the whole country not to do this secret maneuver you've been planning for ages. But the quote I was thinking of is the O'Reilly, because they try and cancel it. Like Bulmer Hobson, he tries to cancel it, but he gets they put him under house arrest basically, so he can't stop it. The O'Reilly, he drives to Dublin to try and stop the rising. When he gets there, it's already happening, and supposedly he says, "Well, I've helped to wind up the clock. I may as well hear it strike." And he just starts shooting, which is a great image. He's just gunning it down the road, getting across the country, trying to stop it. And he's like, well, fuck it, I'm here now.
I shouldn't have stopped for that haircut.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's the same with Plunkett. You know, he spent ages planning this. So what if he had tuberculosis and he's almost dead? He's going to be there in the action with Michael Collins propping him up.
We're going to die of TB or like a hero.
Yeah. But so he wants to be there. He wants to be in the fray. And Collins is his aide de camp on the day. So Collins, later on, I suppose, not that he wouldn't be a big fan of the Rising, but I think he thought it was a bit foolish. He was,
well, yeah. So if we just quickly go through he's like, because when they do get caught, he's talking about the next time we go and do a Rising.
Yes.
Let's not make these mistakes in particular. It's
sure.
Like, go into Stephen's Green, a park. When they surround us, we've got no exit.
Yeah.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
The reconnaissance in advance to know that, say, Dublin Castle, that the guard who shot at them there when they went to take over, only guard on duty
could have
in the entire castle.
Yes.
So if they just, instead of running away, they just shot him.
Yeah.
Then they've got the castle. Granted, how long are they going to keep it for? Who knows? But it would have been good if it was one of the major points of like to take over.
Yeah.
Losing because one guy had a pistol and shot at you.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The biscuit factory probably held out for a little bit longer, but again, what was it, only 2 men inside of there?
Yeah.
There's so much that you go, it's insane that the country was.
This was the
point that you can, like, the crux of, like, from this point on you can go, right, in 5 years we get our independence. This is the most haphazard, ridiculous.
As we all know, in 2025, any of the men and women involved in 1916 are geniuses and cannot be. They're right about everything.
Yeah.
And if James Connolly wrote about not wanting Belgian refugees in 1914, then we have to respect that. But you can't question them at all. But on another, it's from a weaker man, not me, a weaker-willed man might say that it was a badly planned. I agree with the concept.
Yeah,
it was just poorly executed. Yeah, I mean,
the destruction of the city. Like, there was a lot of, but
it was never going to work.
Was crap,
except it did work.
But it did work.
Yes.
That's the thing. And so in hindsight,
All it
Good.
took was them all getting executed.
Hmm.
It seems that the them being executed is what worked, not the actual 6 days of
No,
shooting and
But-
burning things.
But I suppose that's the idea of the martyrdom element of it.
Yeah.
That if you go
Wait,
when they're like, hey, the guns didn't show up, all the men didn't show up, you're like, we're all just here to
Yeah.
die anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's actually, to be honest, it'll look better in the history books if you keep adding extra
Sure.
challenges in there.
Which Collins, I guess, so he is not a fan of the martyrdom aspect of it, which comes up later on, like, when maybe in part 2, where Dev's like, we should all get arrested. That'll be good for the
Yes.
cause. Like, instead of getting arrested or shot or hung, maybe we should fucking try and win. Maybe we do this. So yeah, I suppose when it's Collins' turn to organize things, he's much more of a let's do this tactically
Yeah.
as a
Pragmatic
military,
more about it,
and
yeah.
instead of this sort of grab a few things and then hope that people are annoyed when we get shot.
Yeah, or even
Which, to be fair, they are.
But even with the idea of because he's against the meeting them man to man to fight as an army.
Yeah.
So even at that is like, even if you have the weapons and the training and you've rehearsed and done everything else, even still, let's not fight them.
Yeah.
That I'd never meet them like that. That's a terrible, terrible idea.
Yeah.
To actually go like man to man, gun to gun, you're going to be like,
Because there's no.
it's the power of the British Empire.
Yeah, you haven't got the numbers there.
Yeah.
But, well, so he doesn't, they say, roughly, he doesn't really agree. The martyrdom side of it is more like Pierce, Podrick, Patrick Pierce, or Podrick ní Fíorsa.
Yeah.
Yes. He's much more about the martyrdom side of it. Collins sort of aligns himself more with the old IRB styles of Tom Clark and like Sean McDermott. And this is the part of the story that'll come up again in part 2. But when at the end of the rebellion, when they're all sort of rounded up, Collins finds himself in with Tom Clark and Sean McDermott, and he witnesses the sort of abuse that they suffer at the hands of the British, specifically a young private called Percival Lee Wilson. So the stories kind of differ from different accounts, but Tom Clark, the old man of the revolution, old man Clark, at 56? What was he?
Yeah, so yeah.
He's like Barry. He wasn't even 60, I don't think. Yeah, he's like old father time himself.
49 years of age.
Yeah. He gets roughed up. The accounts, I think a lot of them are that he was like strip searched by this young private in front of women. There was women present. And then, I think they get battered around a bit.
Yeah, humiliated and tortured.
Yeah.
But although when you read those parts about Tom Clark, and you go like, how could they do that to Tom Clark? And you go, he did spend how much time in prison? Probably getting a lot worse than that in England.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just like when you read it, you go like, how?
Oh, what? Just because he had a bad time in prison, they should be like knock him about.
But like he would have been probably knocked around a lot worse.
Yeah.
There's like and they made him undress in front of women. It was a man who didn't talk for 20 years and was just tortured in British prisons. This is probably not as bad.
No, and why? Oh, it's they were rough on him. They knocked him around. And what did he ever do? What did he ever do apart from orchestrate a bomb campaign in England for about 20 years? But I mean, honestly, he was arrested as a young man for a crime he wasn't even allowed to commit. He was set up
owning a horse.
He went to England to try and blow it up, and they arrested him before he was even allowed. It was an entrapment, I say. It's like he got John DeLorean. But yeah, I mean, whatever Collins sees the treatment of these two men that he's come to idolize, and he stores it away, files that away for later.
Well, it's the same as well for like anyone who would have been in the barracks at the time who wasn't executed. That like any treatment towards anyone who did die, or even people who would have lived, but like that you're already setting in place the chain of events or the motion that's going to lead to the very next revolution. Yeah, that the men who were sat there have been like, I'm already on board for this rising. If you're not going to kill me, and I'm going to watch and see the leaders be tortured and humiliated and shot. They'll all store that. It's like, it's not just
for sure. No, that is true, and that is what happens. So Collins doesn't get everyone gets rounded up and put into Richmond barracks, and then like later, then the leaders are kind of executed in Kilmainham jail. But Collins doesn't. He's not important enough to be executed, I suppose, at the time. He's a relative unknown. He gets shipped off to Frognock in Wales.
Is he?
What do you mean? Is he shipped off?
No, no, he's definitely shipped off. It was like, is he important enough to be killed? Have you heard that there's
that he was the puppet master all along?
No, the account that
account Plunkett?
He was on the list by the the G-Men or the Dublin Metro Police, and
Yeah.
he was on a list of the people to keep an eye on. So when they brought them all down to the barracks, and this maybe was in Kilmainham, but that there was two big groups of men. It was like all the lads who were being shipped off and all the lads who were being executed.
Yeah.
And then they called out Michael Collins' name, and then he was like, "Oh, balls!" And he just slowly walked over to the other group and just went to Wales.
I had heard that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
No, yeah. But
He would have been only in the country for a couple of months. Is that? Yeah, he would have only been back a couple of months.
But I imagine that
But then he's
what was
pretty
his
high up in it.
reasoning for moving back to Ireland, which is a weird question to ask, but as if the
Yeah,
British were looking
yeah,
at it
that's
going,
fair, yeah.
a guy who's heavily involved in the GEA, now well educated.
Why is he going back? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they were keeping an eye on him. Maybe
And he's
they
moving
did.
to Dublin, not down to Cork, and he's surrounded by lads from like the IRB.
Yeah.
I would say he'd be high on the list of. but
If
he-
you were
and
keeping
he-
an eye on him,
Yeah.
that's true.
that like even now, to be honest, if a lad moved back from America, I'd be like, are you
Where are you going?
why is I just missed home? So
Yeah.
keep an eye on.
No one misses home. Whatever the truth of it, he doesn't. He's not executed. Not this time. But he heads over to Frognock, an open air sort of prison camp in Wales, until December of 1916. So he's there for most of the year. It's referred to nowadays as the University of Revolution. So basically, you take all these fellas who, again, we're talking about this. The Rising is sort of organized in secret. These men are trying to communicate with each other through like coded messages in the papers, sort of hush word of mouth sort of stuff. They have no real formal training. They would have been doing marches and drills with the Irish volunteers before World War One, but this is an opportunity where they're all the rank and file are now in one or two big sort of spots in an open air prison camp. England's distracted by World War One,
These lads are just walking around chatting to each other, delivering messages via their mouths.
Practicing a bit of
Just
Gaelic.
talking. Imagine. Oh, I suppose they're speaking Irish, I guess, as well.
Supposedly,
But,
yeah.
But just the idea of not having to write anything down, so they can't even.
Yeah, or they
Yeah,
do.
like, they
Like,
can't even like kick into your room and go catch plans or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're just
but you can meet.
yeah. It's great. Like
yeah.
this is the same as
It's a
what
bad
happened
idea.
down in Van Diemen's Land.
Yes.
That they allowed the lads to just. Oh, sure, it's an open prison, so just go. That's why That's why prisons. That's why you need to be locked in
That's
individual
what they
rooms.
went with classic prisons after this. I suppose there's a lot of them, and again, the war zone, so times are tight. But they say this is where he kind of hones his leadership skills. There's talk of nationalism. This sort of organizes. This is the beginnings of a proper army, a proper Irish Republican army, a proper IRA. Once he gets out of Frognock, it's time to go back to Ireland and try it again, but for real this time. None of this martyrdom crack. Let's actually have a go at it.
Yeah.
Don't be playing for a draw. Believe in yourselves.
Pretending to go for the ball.
Yeah.
Making
Conviction.
shapes.
Yeah. So that's the end of part one. Miguel Collins. Now part two, he'll be back in Ireland. He's going
The little fella.
The little fella.
Yeah.
Now he's about to become the medium fella. Part two, the rise of the medium fella. Part three, the death of big fella. But right, we'll see you next week for the second part. Good luck.
Shafter.